Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. Billy Sewell with a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, take it down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody out there. It is Rocked On Detroit Lions Off the Cuff. We're back. Off the Cuff has been around. We really didn't go anywhere, but we're back now that the season's headed towards the off season. Off the Cuff is going to gear it back up. We're going to add a few more nights. We're probably going to switch back to Thursdays, but stick around. You can always read the bio. It'll tell you everything on the front of the page as to when we're going to be going on. And also, please pay attention to the descriptions. We're going to be launching some sponsors, and their information is going to be in the description. We'll also do some live reads for them. We're excited to partner with some of these people. They're amazing people, amazing companies, and we look forward to it. So that's all coming up. But tonight, impromptu, I didn't really plan on doing a live show tonight, but I think we kind of have to. It's, what'll be, 48 hours before the Super Bowl now? Super Bowl that we should be in, and a Super Bowl that Dan Campbell made a comment about, and I'm wondering if he's kind of walking it back at this point. And the reason why I say that, I'm not throwing Dan under the bus or anything, but he kind of said something in the heat of the moment. At least that's kind of what's been advertised, is it? Maybe it was just heat of the moment. So I'm going to bring in, or I'm going to talk about this article here, NBC Sports, talk about Aiden Hutchinson's quote about Dan Campbell, and just kind of see where it goes. So let me see who's in the chat already. And good evening, Al Torrey. How you doing, my man? Anyone that jumps in tonight, go ahead, drop us a chat. Tell us where you're from. And hey, if you want to throw out predictions for the Super Bowl, go for it. We'll talk more about that maybe on Sunday. So, all right, Dan Campbell, after the NFC Championship loss, he kind of said like it was possibly the only shot that they had at making the Super Bowl. And maybe that kind of came out wrong. Maybe it was heat of the moment. And a few media sites I guess really everybody kind of grabbed a hold of it, but Mike Florio did. And Mike Florio, man, he's all over the place. And what this article says is that many were surprised that Dan Campbell told reporters that his message to the team after losing to the 49ers was that it might have been their only shot at the Super Bowl appearance. Among the surprised was edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson. So Aiden kind of took this one to heart. There was a Thursday conversation with PFT Live where Aiden Hutchinson said that Campbell's message quickly changed. I guess we expected that. But this is what Aiden had to say. He said, I think he, as well as all, were emotional after the game. I don't know if he meant those things completely, because in our exit meetings the day after, he's like, we're going to the Super Bowl next year. Like, screw it. Like, I don't care what it takes, because I feel like I was. Not real sure what that means. You kind of hear that after the game and you get a little discouraged because you're like, do you think that was our only shot? So, I guess in the minds of the players, maybe they were discouraged, like Aiden says, or maybe they were questioning their ability. Like, did they even belong there? Were we just lucky to get here? Did all the stars just kind of align at the right time and we limped our way through the playoffs? Some people would have you believing that. I'm a firm believer that, man, if you make it into the tournament at all, you're going up against the best of the best that the NFL has. It doesn't matter what they did during the regular season. Those are all brand new teams entering the postseason. But anyway, let's hear what Aiden had to say. The rest of it, he said, "I think it was just an emotional thing. I get it because it's like you have this 22-week season, and you're so close, and you just miss out. You're like, God, it took a lot to get here." But I understand the next day he kind of came in. He gave us his speech that, we were like, we're all ready to play again right now. I felt like that on Monday, and I believe it too, because all the players that we have that are talented on our team are so young, and we have so many more years all playing together. I think that this is the tip of the iceberg. And yes, it does take luck and that good mojo to get back to where we were and to advance further. But I feel like we have a lot of talented players, a lot of good guys on this team. I believe in Aiden, in what he's saying here, that they have the talent, they have the players, they're young. I believe in all of that. I also believe that they all wanted to run through a brick wall after Dan Campbell gave them their exit meeting and speech. I want to run through a brick wall when I hear Dan Campbell talk. So did Dan Campbell have any remorse? Was he just overly emotional after the NFC Championship loss? And he kind of just said whatever comes to Dan Campbell's lips. I mean, that kind of happens a lot. And maybe, like Rick Grit says, poor choice of words, but I don't think he meant it, as to how it was taken. And I think that's the boat that I'm traveling in tonight. Is I think that this was just an emotional outburst. And I think what he was meaning by this was it's so hard to get here. It's very hard to get back. And for some, players in this league, coaches in this league, they get there one time. Dan Marino, never go back. Lions in 91, never go back. 30 plus years. There's a lot of teams out there that just never make it. There's a lot of players that get very close and they never go back. It's unlike, the story of Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. Those are few and far between. You don't have many of those. There's a lot of luck on those guys' squads, man. A lot of good coaching too. A lot of damn good ball players. And they find a way to get it done. But Aiden kind of finished this like, I wouldn't want it any other way. And I feel the same way. I wouldn't want it any other way. Dan Campbell is our coach. I believe that, he has the best intentions for these guys. And no matter what comes out of his mouth, right, wrong, or indifferent, or whether you agree with it or not, this was not a one-trick pony. This was not just, a lucky season. They've been building up for this. And every team, goes through their ups and downs, their ebbs and their flows. And when it really mattered, this team put it together. Didn't show up for one half, but I'll take it over what we've been dealing with for decades. So I'm traveling with Aiden on this one. I just think it was just, wrong moment, wrong time, to say what he said, but it is what it is. Rob Newsom says he also said that we could get back. Yes. And let me get to the rest of that message here. Or maybe not, because I already closed it out. So he did say that. He didn't go into a big, long, elaborate speech or anything about it, but he did mention that it is possible to get back, that it is going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, but he did make a statement that we are now the hunted. And see, that's the difference to this is when you fly under the radar, like the Lions have, because they just haven't been a good team and nobody gives us the light of day to, show up and win any game, any given day. They don't think we're going to do it. You fly under the radar and now you're the hunted because of what you just did. Now people are looking at you differently. Maybe they're paying attention more to the tape. Not saying that they do a half-assed job or anything, but now they're paying attention. Now they realize that they have a tough football team over there in Detroit. Better the Hunt's got a great comment here. He says San Francisco got there 3 years running. 3 years running weekend 2. We are just as good, if not better than they are. I agree with that. San Francisco's got some ballers. We're only a couple of pieces away from having a team that's fairly stacked and young. The youth is, I think, the biggest motivator to all of this is these guys are going to be around for a while. and they're all growing and learning together, and they're learning the right way together. I think that one of the biggest things that I could take away from this team and the way that it's progressed is it's good to have some veteran leadership. But if you have a bunch of vets in a room that have been around the league for a long time, isn't it hard to teach an old dog new tricks, right? I mean, everyone understands that. Sometimes you guys, you're stuck into what you believe is the right way and the only way. When you have a bunch of young guys that are coming out of college and you're building through the draft and you get them into your way right away, your path. This is how we're going to build this team. This is our culture. This is our identity. And they all buy in, sky's the limit. If you've got everybody marching in the same direction, they're tough to stop. But the minute you get a few, guys flaking off and doing their own thing, that's what can pull a team down. John Pierce says, do you think we get Bosa? I do not. He's too much money. I think, if I remember correctly, the numbers on Bosa, he's got 2 years left on his contract. I think it would cost $22 million this year and $15 million next year. I think are the rough numbers, if I remember correctly. But I think he's going to be too expensive. I think he'd probably want some sort of an extension. Not that he should get one if he was traded, because you don't automatically require an extension. But if Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes wanted to finagle the numbers a little bit, an extension is the best way to keep that number low so they can still go out and get some guys, which means then he's going to want a bigger number. He's going to want a lot more money. And then that's going to inhibit the ability of signing Aiden Hutchinson in 2 seasons, because you're already looking at Goff, Penei Sewell, and St. Brown this year. So I think for that reason, no. I think if they're going to go out and get somebody, it's going to be the second contract guy, someone coming off their 4th or 5th season. I think that's who they're going to target. Let me clarify. If they target a high-priced free agent. Rob Newsom says, the division and schedule will be tougher, but so will we. It's a good point. The thing about the schedule is this last year we had 8 games that were 7 teams, 8 games, all playoff teams from last season. That was supposed to be a very tough schedule. Was it as tough as we had thought it was going to be? Probably not. Did we still play some very good teams? We did. And some teams that tested us in different ways. And a lot of them had really good defenses. So I think that the Lions had a pretty big challenge this year. I don't think the next year is going to be much different, but I don't think it's going to be much worse. I think on paper, it looks worse than what it really is. And I think we'll know more once we get through free agency and in the draft and see what's changed. There's a lot of teams that are really hurting. 5 for sure that I put out the other day that are hurting with the cap. And those teams are going to change dramatically. I don't know if we play any of those teams. I didn't look at the schedule that hard. Braylon Dennis says, Will and Charles Harris, Aquaras need to go. I think that they're already gone. I think Julian was not signed to a future, so he's gone. But yeah, I would say the rest of those, all of them are most likely done for. Now they could come back at a league minimum, I guess, be a camp body, but I don't think there's anything long-term going on there. And I don't think that they make the 53-man roster, even if they do come back. I think that there's going to be some significant change in that defensive front this season. C. Klaus 21 says, I'd rather have a tough schedule. It prepares us for the playoffs and the possibility for a better draft pick. Isn't bad either. Allergies kicking my butt tonight. All right, so the next topic I wanted to get to is, and you guys already know about this, but wide receiver Traquan Smith. So I wanted to get you guys' feelings here and your ideas on Traquan Smith and Josh Reynolds. Where do you guys think this is going? Do you think that Traquan Smith is going to be able to fill in and be a quality wide receiver? There's no guarantee that he's going to make the roster at this point. Right now, he's just signed to a reserve futures contract, and he's got to work his way onto this roster. But do you think that this is a lateral move to potentially not bring back Josh Reynolds. The other day, I thought Josh Reynolds made $8 million this past season, and I think I was way off on that. I think he played for $4 million this year. Give me 1 second. Yeah, he played for right around right at $4 million. Give me one quick second here. All right, we're back. So Josh Reynolds, $4 million. If he comes back, for that 2, 3, heck, even $4 million a year, I'm all right with it. The guy played pretty well. He did a pretty damn good job all season. Besides a few balls there in the last game, he was very consistent, very trustworthy. He has a great relationship with Jared Goff. He's a leader. He is a little bit older. He'll be pushing, let's see. I think he turned 28 today. So he'll be 28 years old throughout the season. So he's not old. He's been in the league a little while, going on 7 years, be this season. So look, he's not terribly old. He's not young. He's a good leader. He's someone that has always had sure hands. And I think the relationship with Goff is a considerable mention to him coming back. So for that reason, I do want to see him back. I don't know if Traquan Smith is going to be the guy that edges him out, but I'm going to give Traquan Smith just as much of an opportunity as anybody else. They've got to earn it. They've got to show that they're worth it. Braylon Dennis says, I'd rather we keep Reynolds. He's been solid for us all year. And man, I'm glad you said that, Braylon, because there's been a lot of people that were really dogging Josh Reynolds after the NFC Championship. I mean, I get it. He had a couple of bad, drops and what could have been, if he would have caught those balls. But you cannot wrap up somebody's entire career over 2 passes. Crap happens, man. Would it have been different if those drops happened during the season and you lose a regular season game versus a postseason game? Do you still blame him for that? I don't know. No one's perfect. Everyone's going to have, their day where it's just not their day. That just wasn't Josh Reynolds' day. Rob Newsom says, I think we need a better kicker. I don't think it changes Dan Campbell, but he'll kick field goals a little more often, and at least we might trust a new kicker. I like Cardi from Stanford in the 6th or 7th round. So, Rob, I haven't done or prepared anything tonight as far as draft work. I'll be doing all of that probably in a couple of weeks. I'll start throwing it out. I'm doing free agency type stuff right now. I do have a lot prepared for it, just not tonight. But I'll look into Cardi. I'm going to write that guy down and take a look at him. I'm all about signing a kicker this year. I think that you kind of have to. And I think you're right. It doesn't change Dan Campbell one bit. There was an interview today on another network, and I forget the guy's name. But, man, he really tore into Dan Campbell over not kicking the football. And I think what everyone failed to realize is in the first half, there was only like 7 seconds left. There wasn't enough time to run, any more plays to try to score a touchdown. And that's why Dan Campbell took the field goal. Unless my memory is totally oblivious of what happened, he had to take the field goal. So when people are out there saying, well, no, that's not his identity. That's not what he did in the first half. So why did he do it didn't do it in the second half? Well, circumstances were different. And I know we've kind of talked about this already too, but just because you do one thing in the beginning of the game and you do something different at the end of the game, I don't know how that really matters. I think that each point of the game is going to call for, a different answer or a different response to how you're going to attack it. Or attack that situation. Dan's a mover and a shaker, man. I think he's calculated. I think he knows what he's doing more times than not. And I think he's confident. He's confident in his convictions on how he wants to, play football. I'll say this. I have not seen a new coach in my lifetime come into the Detroit Lions organization and take them to an NFC championship game in their third season. So that's speaking high volumes to what this guy just did. Lone Wolf says, in order for Reynolds to come back, it has to be player friendly. I'm all for Reynolds coming back. He was awesome in the wild card Rams game. C. Klaus says Cardi is nasty. Must be a good nasty, right? Braylon Dennis wants to re-sign Reynolds. He said he's been solid all year. Rick Ritt says, I think Josh could be this season's Jamal Williams. Interesting. All right, next topic. We got a new coach. And there's more to this guy that meets the eye. So Trevor Deshea Townsend comes to the Detroit Lions as the passing game coordinator. Now, I haven't heard much as far as what's going on with Dre Bly, if there's going to be any changes there. But this guy excites me. His history, he's a former player. Again, the Lions continue to bring in former players as coaches, which helps them to earn immediate credibility. So he spent, Pittsburgh Steelers, 1998 to 2009, then finished his career with the Indianapolis Colts in 2010. He's coached Arizona Cardinals as an assistant defensive backs coach, 2011 and 12. Mississippi State, it's actually a pretty darn good school for cornerbacks. Cornerbacks coach, 2013 to 2015. And then he jumped into the professional ranks, working for the Tennessee Titans, 2016 to 17, the Giants, 2018, the Bears, 19 to 21, and the Jaguars, 22 to 23. Now, if this was a resume and I was looking at this, I would be concerned. Why are you only lasting a year or two with your employer? What's going on there? Is there a reason for it? Are you the problem? Are you not doing the right job? You know, you're getting fired all the time. But I don't know that. I don't know what's gone on with each one of these institutions, you know, in the NFL, of where he's landed and what's happened. But he went from an assistant to the cornerbacks coach. And he pretty much stayed in that role until he got to the Giants. Then he was back down to the assistant again. And then he went to the Bears and he was the secondary coach. And then he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars as the passing game coordinator and cornerbacks coach. And now he's the defensive passing game coordinator and cornerbacks coach. So he really hasn't had a ton of movement either way, as far as, you know, kind of moving up in the ranks. He's stayed, you know, pretty stagnant in what he does, which is coach the secondary and coordinate the passing game. What I like, though, is the fact that he brings that Pittsburgh Steeler mentality, which, you know, they're all about defense, especially during the era that he played. He was around some really good players, and being a former player himself, he brings more credibility to the team and the players, like I said. And the biggest thing to this is his experience. I understand that he's bounced around a little bit, but he's bringing some experience to the table that if he's going to work, you know, alongside of Dre Bly or not, we don't know. But if they are going to work together, I think it only, you know, elevates what this defensive secondary is going to be able to do once they get another cornerback that can help them out. What this little segment says is the Pittsburgh Steelers selected Townsend in the 4th round, 117th overall, 98 draft. He was the 14th cornerback drafted in 1998. He grew from a special teams player in nickelback and initially known in Pittsburgh as the first player to wear Rod Woodson's number 26 after he left the Steelers. He turned into a solid starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers at cornerback. He was known for his outside speed as a pass rusher. He recorded 322 tackles, 15 and a half quarterback sacks, and 18 interceptions during his 12 years as a Steeler. 18 interceptions, 12 years. I mean, he's pulling down almost 1.5 a year. So he knows how to go up and get a ball. So we'll see what he brings. I'm excited about it. We'll see what changes are in store for us this season, but I think the biggest changes we're going to need are player personnel. Rick Ritt says the new defensive line coach and the new DB coach, Brad's about to spend some money on defense, and AG has been put on notice. Great statement, man. Let's talk about that. So what we're seeing, just like Rick Ritt is noticing, is they're starting to build the defense. They went out and they found a coach or two, and they've already pulled in an offensive weapon. So they've addressed that side of the ball too, but they're starting to pay attention to the defense this season because they just seen what happened in the NFC Championship game. 17 points, scored on you in the third quarter. You can't have that happen. It can't continue to happen. And it happened all season where the cornerbacks and the safeties were just getting torched. We've got some great assets back there. Brian Branch is going to be a dog. And that's why I do believe, and I do have one name for you guys tonight, and I do think that he is a perfect fit. But that's why I think that they're going to add another Alabama guy. Kool-Aid, what is it? McClinty or something like that? Kool-Aid. But what a perfect name, right? His name is Kool-Aid. McKinstry or something like that. I can't say his last name, or I can't remember it. McKinstry. So Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Watched his tape today. They actually have two really solid cornerbacks over in Alabama. But I'm going to be doing a draft preview on him. I love his tape. I love his athleticism. And I think he's going to fit nicely. And the fact that he played, with Jahmyr Gibbs, he's played with Brian Branch. There's some history there, even with Jameson Williams back in 2021. So he's gone up against some of the best and some of the fastest. I think that he could be a great fit. It's just, is he going to last until, late in the first round? That's yet to be seen. I still have a lot of work to do on grading him out and seeing where he's going to end up. But right now, he is the fourth cornerback listed this so far in the draft. Hey, what's up, King SJ? How's it going? Myers Farm, haven't seen you in a while. He says, I can't always catch you. I wanted to ask you what you think of Glenn returning. I've had this conversation with a few people, and I guess where I'm at with it is kind of where a lot of people are. This is the last year that I think Aaron Glenn is going to be allowed to not win. He's not going to be given a very long leash, in my opinion, nor should he be given one. Now, the defense did make a big jump, bottom feeders of the league, top 20 in the league now. So it's a good jump. Can you do it again? Can you get us into the top 10? If you can get this defense into the top 10, you can help this team win a Super Bowl as long as our offense is maintaining a top 5, like it has been for 2 seasons. Overall, I think Aaron Glenn is finally going to have an opportunity to get the players that he wants and get the players that he needs, because he doesn't have enough right now. This team has been short for a couple of seasons now on defensive players, while Brad Holmes has spent the assets on building the offense. That doesn't mean he hasn't taken any defensive players. He just hasn't gone after really any high-profile players in the draft defensively other than Aiden Hutchinson. So Brian Branch, he worked out. He wasn't supposed to be a high-profile player. I think it's time that Aaron Glenn gets his players, and this is also the time where there's no more excuses for Aaron Glenn. This is the last hurrah for him, in my opinion. Now, I could be totally wrong. Him and Dan Campbell are buddies. It's hard to fire your family or fire your friends. So we'll see. I don't think that they can keep making out, the cornerbacks coaches to be the scapegoat. Dre Bly joined this team, but that's Aaron Glenn's defense. If there's something wrong, he has to fix it. He has to tell them what to do. It's that simple. If it was that bad during the season, you should have made a move during the season. You don't wait until after the season. You nip it in the bud right there. And it was multiple games in a row, where it really got bad there in the last half of the season. So to answer your question, I really believe that AG is kind of on his last leg in Detroit. I know definitely with the fans. They're given another shot because they went to the NFC Championship game. Had this season ended in week 18, I think this is a different story. I think that AG is let go. Or maybe he had a better shot at a head coaching job. I don't know. I guess that's my overall feeling with it. Had the season ended in week 18 and we didn't go to the postseason, I think that AG is gone. But winning covers, right? You can wrap a piece of dog poop in gold, but by the time you open up the gold, man, it's still dog poop and it's still going to stink. So he's got to shake off the stink and he's got to get to work and find a way to win in 2024. So we were literally 1 or 2 games away this season from having a number 1 seed, and how much different that could have changed the Lions' trajectory. I mean, we've seen it. I was there. One more home game, and the Lions are in the Super Bowl. I don't care who was coming into Ford Field. One more home game, and we were going to be in the Super Bowl. Tracy says, hey, Will, I agree with you and what you're saying about AG this next season. When he's in his A game, the defense is great, but he's not consistent. It's a great point. We've seen some defenses that played pretty well. I mean, I can tell you last season, there was plenty of games where I was just speechless at how well the defense played. I mean, the game this last season against Green Bay, I mean, one of the best defensive games I've seen out of this team. But then it totally turned a few weeks later, against the Ravens. Tampa Bay, believe it or not, was a pretty darn good defensive game. Held them to 6 points. So yeah, we've seen some really good, defensive games, but the consistency factor, right? Being persistently consistent. And that's where this defense needs to be. We need to know that they can be trustworthy. And, if they can't cover on man, they shouldn't be in man. It's that simple. If you belong in press man, you belong in press man. But if you don't, then you're a zone cover guy. I don't know how much more clear it needed to be. We didn't have the personnel. And I think it also goes back to Mosley not making it. I believe that Mosley was supposed to be our number 1. Cam Sutton was never supposed to be our number 1. And I think it showed. We need someone that's got some length and some drive and some speed and some press man ability to be a number 1 corner. I don't believe Cam Sutton is that guy. I think he's a darn good player. And I think that he's an excellent, excellent duo with somebody that has top tier talents. Cam Sutton's just not that guy. Who is that guy? We'll be talking about that next week. We're going to be looking at some more free agents. Jalen Johnson's name's been thrown around. And if you guys missed the episode the other night, the other morning, I did a full roster breakdown about an hour into the show, the Rise and Grind morning show on Thursday. I did a full roster breakdown. I extended Jared Goff's contract, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, re-signed Graham Glasgow, Gardner Johnson, Josh Reynolds. Pretty much got all the big ones out of the way. Had about 67 guys under contract. And we were down to about, $4 million or so left in the cap. And that was bringing in some big players like AJ Epinesa and Jalen Johnson. So it can be done. It's just, how can we afford it in the future? Where is it going to land this team, 2, 3, 4 years down the road? I guess what I'm trying to say is I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Holmes makes a splash trade or splash signing, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. And he sticks to his guns and he still continues to build the way that he has been building, which is through the draft, low price free agents, but finding good quality fits. Brad Holmes is good at what he does. It's just, we're looking for that, let's go get it kind of guy. And that's what we're missing. Rob Newsom says, I'm okay with keeping AG. I think it's about having the players we didn't have. Good point. I actually think the defense overachieved. I think they did too. Rick Grit says Mosley would have kept CD in check in week 17 and the NFC Championship would have been in Detroit. Just saying, man. We should have never lost that game in Dallas anyway, that we won that game. We know that. Everybody knows. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. We'll go down conspiracy row. Everybody in the NFL knows if the Lions beat the Cowboys and they get the 1 seed, we are in the Super Bowl. I don't think the NFL was quite ready to kind of give us the keys to the kingdom just yet. I think they fed us, a few scraps here and there and, allowed us to get to the NFC title game. Gave us the draft in 2024. Got us. Actually, we had some really good ref officiating in the NFC championship game too. That was probably the best referee game I've seen all season. Quite honestly, we didn't have to hang our hat on, oh my God, the ref blew it. So they gave us some scraps, but I don't think the NFL was ready for the Detroit Lions to win. I mean, you see it in the media. They ride your coattails. They jump all over the bandwagon, and as soon as they lose the NFC Championship game, they turn tail and run the other direction. And they just start talking crap. That's why you can't believe in all of these other media sites out there. It's either you're all in or you're all out. Which one is it? It's okay to be critical. It's okay to have an opinion. But you still, are you all in on the Lions or are you not? Because I can't tell with some of these people that, they just go so far left. With hating everything the Lions do and picking apart everything the Lions do, but they don't tell us anything that they do well. They don't praise them for all the things that, they do well. Case in point, the other night, the honors, last night, Lions got shafted big time. Tell me how Dan Campbell is going to win Coach of the Year now, ever. He's already done, 2 amazing seasons in a row. Huge comeback last season, should have won it last season. Amazing start and finish this season, should have won it this season. How is he going to do that again next year? Okay, so if he goes 15-2, maybe. Wins a Super Bowl, definitely, but the voting is done, I believe, by week 18. So the postseason is not supposed to matter, technically. Lone Wolf says that Cowboys game was BS from the start. It was all about Jimmy. Myers Farm says that's why I listen to Dan and Lomas rather than watch the TV commentators. Man, I could never get enough of Dan Miller and his calls. It sends a little shockwave through you. Rick Grit says Sheila still had some fences to mend. William Clay Ford knocked a lot of them down. I'm not quite sure about that one. I'm not following that one. I apologize. All right. Let me pull up some more topics here. So what are your guys' biggest free agency acquisitions? Like who are you guys looking for, I guess, is the biggest question that we're still trying to get answered as to where the Lions need to end up this season. We had some big news the other night too about Frank Ragnow. I'm sure you guys all know about that too. And that was a good move by Frank to finally come out and say that he's coming back. I think that put out a lot of fires. Frank not taking a moment for himself, I think would be unwise. He needs to take time. One of the most important things he said in his statement was being the best husband and father that he could be. That will always be more important than football ever will be. And if you can't have that right in your life and things aren't good there, then football maybe shouldn't be played. But that's a decision that he has to make. And I think he did right by the team by coming out and saying, look, I'm coming back Don't worry about me. That's just one less stress you got to worry about. Because he's seen what's been transpiring over the last couple of weeks. He's felt how close that they just were. And he doesn't have much time left on his contract, but at the same time, his injuries are pretty bad. He's one of the toughest dudes I think the game of football has ever seen. And his commitment and dedication to the city of Detroit and the fans and the team, it's beyond anything that I've really ever witnessed. The guy guts it out, but he's still so well grounded that he wants to focus on family first, being a husband first, being a father first. And those are the types of characters and leaders and players that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes want to bring to this team. Those are the type of people that they're looking for. Guys that are dedicated to everything that they do in life. So putting out the statement, putting that worry to rest, I think is going to lift everybody up and give Brad Holmes a little bit, calmer of a spring, of an off season. He still has to go out and get prepared. And I do believe that Brad Holmes is going to look at bringing in a center that can play guard. And I know I've mentioned that a few times this week, but I do believe that he's going to bring in a center that can play guard and have his backup ready. And more importantly, I really hope he brings Graham Glasgow back in and give us two guys, that can play center outside of Ragnow so that position is locked up for a couple of years. C. Klaus says Matabuki for sure, or Matabuki. Matabuki is one of my biggest targets. Christian Wilkins was another. I think that there's some, cheap options or cheaper options with Nadi from the Chiefs. Either way, I think that we need a big, tough, bruising defensive tackle that's just nasty. Someone that's got good arm length, good power, good speed, and good. I don't mean fast, but enough speed that they can, get off a block and go out and get somebody, off the edge if they had to. Pairing up another defensive tackle with a Lee McNeil that can get after it a little bit and push the pocket and take on some double teams, it's only going to help Aiden Hutchinson. He's only going to get better. And I do believe that Aiden is ready to explode and finally do what he's brought in to do once this team gives him a couple more pieces. He hasn't been elite yet, but he's got the opportunity to be elite. And I think it's going to come this season. I really do. I think that this next season is going to be Aiden Hutchinson's best season. He's had pretty decent seasons so far. And I think sky is really the limit for him once he's surrounded by a cast of players that can alleviate the pressure. Lone Wolf says Houston's defensive tackle, Sheldon Rankins. He played with the Saints when Campbell and AG were there. He's another good one. I just don't know if he's going to go anywhere. Houston's got a great team. They're going to try to keep them around. Tracy says, any defense from Michigan in the draft this year that might be worth looking at? I'll get to that in a couple weeks. Like I said, I haven't prepared a ton yet, or at least for tonight. I'll probably be doing defensive end, defensive tackles, and cornerbacks first. Obviously, defense first. I don't think this is going to be much of an offensive draft for us, unless it's an offensive tackle or a guard, quite honestly. Possibly a tight end. I think that we're going to get another tight end, honestly. We'll see. Hendon Hooker debate. Can we please put this to rest? I see it keep popping up, but the Hendon Hooker debate is trade Hendon Hooker for whatever picks you're going to get, or trade him for a defensive tackle or a defensive end. We got the guy for a third-round pick. He has not played a snap in the NFL. He is not worth a third-round pick. He's not worth a second-round pick. He's really worth nothing at this point. You'd be lucky to get your third-round pick back. So the fact that people think that we're either going to trade him or he's going to be our starter this year is completely asinine. And I apologize if you have that notion. But Hooker, he needs to develop. He just came off a major injury. He sat all season. He was elevated or activated the last 6 games of the season where he was able to practice with the team. He has not been through a full training camp where he's, able to run around completely healthy and do football things. He needs at least one more season to develop. But even be that as it may, if he was fully ready, I still don't believe that he is going to replace Goff anytime soon. And I guess that's the last point I'll make about these guys is Jared Goff may or may not get extended this year. I think it would be nuts, absolutely nuts, if they didn't extend him. I don't think Goff would not play. I don't think he would hold out at all. But I think it would be absolutely nuts if they were able to pull that off. But at the same time, you can still extend him and have, very similar cap value that he has this year without extending him. So that's the last thing I'm going to say on those two guys. Like, the debate's got to be over. Hendon Hooker is a phenomenal athlete. He's going to be a great quarterback in this league as a backup for now. I do believe he has the potential to lead a team. I just haven't seen it yet. And I don't know how anybody else could say that they're confident that he could lead a team when they haven't seen it yet. Training camp, post, preseason, it's meaningless at this point. And Andy said that best last year, how training camp was meaningless, and how preseason was meaningless. It really is. You've got to see them suit up, in a game and see what they have. It gives you an idea, at least in preseason, but we haven't even seen that yet. Lone Wolf says with Hooker, let's do what Green Bay does. Let him sit and learn for a few years. Perfect point. I mean, look, I did not have any faith in Jordan Love after week 4. He got better as the season went on. And the last game that I watched from him, I swear to goodness, that was Aaron Rodgers in that jersey. They're so similar. Their movements, their body mechanics, everything, their posture. And that's because he sat behind Aaron Rodgers and learned. And when you consume that much data for that long, you kind of, you soak it in. It becomes you. C. Klaus says, do people not see what the Packers have been doing with quarterbacks? Why not give him time? Ryan Van Valkenburg says we need him to develop as a backup. And that's the other thing is we need a solid backup. If we have a starting quality backup, then that means that this team may not skip a beat if your primary went down, if Jared Goff went down. He comes in and he's able to, win us the game or, keep the game in line so at least we don't lose it. And the defense can help win the game. But if you don't have a good quality backup, you might as well cash it in for the rest of the season. Rob Newsom makes a good point here. He says, let's just see Hooker before we make any decisions. Myers Farm says, would Raiders Crosby be even feasible? Possibly. He's got ties to Michigan, the state of Michigan. So it's possible that, he might want to come here. But I think, again, he's probably going to be looking for a big chunk of change. And for that kind of money, you might as well go out and get Josh Allen. Rob Newsom says Hooker may be the guy, but he might not be. Let's wait and see. Rick Grit, good point, says the NCAA is not the NFL. Until he plays in the NFL, he's just a very expensive bench warmer. There you go. And yes, we do not want to rely on Nate Sudfeld. I don't think that Sudfeld comes back. I think that experiment's over. I hope it's over. Oh, let's see here. What else did we want to talk about tonight, guys? What other questions you got for me? Did you guys see this? Jared Goff bought all the offensive linemen some lavish watches from Jared. I thought it was kind of funny. I caught that on Twitter. I thought it was hilarious. Here, let me bring it in. Maybe. That's weird. 1 second. Well, I guess it won't. There's too many tabs open. I guess it won't let me open it up. I'll fix that next time. But anyway, Jared Goff bought the entire offensive line watches from Jared. Look like some nice watches. And he's hoisting them all up on his arms. I'm not real sure why it won't let me open it up, but it won't. Myers Farm, do you think Dan is looking at kickers in the draft? I do. I think Brad Holmes is probably looking at him a little bit harder, to be honest with you. I think that Dan's going to be forced to take a kicker. Mike Lyon, where do you live in Michigan? I live here, buddy. Right here. That's how you show people where you live in Michigan. We got Blau. Yeah, Rob Newsom. No. We do not want Blau on this team. I think we've seen enough of those experiences, right? Tracy, what's the story with the Chargers and them talking defensive trade? Yeah, I saw this. Are you talking about Joey Bosa, right? The Joey Bosa news. I don't know how much credibility you can put in the rumors that are out there right now. There's a lot of talk. You're going to hear a lot of crap. But I think we talked about that earlier, right? The Joey Bosa contract. Wrong hand. Yeah, well, it's all backwards on here, right? I mean, I'm sorry. It's all backwards on the camera. I tried to do this one because it's backwards. Maybe it shows up right to you guys. I don't know. I guess I didn't mirror my camera, so maybe it's not. Yeah, Tracy, you're talking about Joey Bosa. Yeah. He signed a 5-year, $135 million contract, a couple of years ago. And I guess if I look at his contract real quick, he is owed. Well, he's cut a dead cap of $38 million this year. Unbelievable. That is huge. So if he's traded, if we look at the numbers, if he's traded before June 1st, I believe the dead money obviously stays with the team, and the cap savings is what's going to go to the new team. So that would be right around $15 million in 2023. I'm sorry, 2024 to the Lions, and $25 million in 2025. So combined, you're looking at what? Close to $20 million a year. It's not terrible, but I wouldn't do it. It's only a 2-year rental. I guess it says something to going all in, but I don't know. I just don't see Brad Holmes doing something like that. I think that he'll overpay somebody potentially for 1 season, but I don't think he's going to make that mistake for 2 seasons, especially if something, were to happen. And I guess I should look at the contract again and see how much guaranteed money is in it. So he has no guaranteed money in 24 and 25. So that could be intriguing. And I would have to do some research to figure out how all of that's going to work out. If he's traded to another team and he has no guaranteed money on his contract, it's going to depend on what's in his contract for injury, because if he's got 0 guaranteed, but he has an injury guarantee, then that might be a reason why you don't want to bring him in. Because if you could lose $15, $20 million because he blows out an ACL, I think Brad Holmes would get crucified for that move. So I think you're better off going out and getting somebody where you can spread it out a little bit, over 3, 4, 5 seasons. Ryan Van Valkenburg says Hendon Hooker with no experience and his eyes closed is better than Nate Sudfeld and Blau. You're not lying. All right, shoot me a few more questions. We're going to be shutting it down here in just a few more minutes. It's a quick one tonight. I didn't do a lot of prep for tonight. I just want to really get out and talk about Dan Campbell and some things that were popping up and how it's going to affect, the players moving forward. They believe in Dan. They believe in everything that he says. And you end the NFC title game like that. I think it shook a few people. And quite honestly, I don't think he meant it. And that's why I wanted to come on tonight and send that your way. Send you my thoughts, my opinions on it. Talk a little bit about Ragnow and Jared Goff, Hendon Hooker deal. It's time to put these things to bed and let's look towards the free agency. Do me a favor, send me an email at info@rockdownpodcastnetwork.com if you guys want some content put up, questions for the week. So just like we did this last season, when I go live on Thursday nights, if you guys want to send me, any questions throughout the week, I will take your question. I will turn it in to part of the show. We'll highlight you for that part of the show. And that's how I'd like to, package the shows together, is questions from the fans, by the fans, and let's create some good shows this off season. We're going to be doing a lot of live streams when we do the free agency breakdowns, the draft breakdowns. I normally have 2 or 3 mock drafts done by now, but because the way the season ended, I haven't done any. So expect my first mock draft to be coming out next week, and it's going to be a mock draft that is going to change. I'll tell you that right now. It's going to change. I'm already seeing a few guys that are potentially going to move up in the draft, and I just want to watch a few more things, and then I'm going to put it out. But we'll see how close I get from the first one to the last one. Last year, if you guys remember, go back to, the April, May, it had to be early April shows that we did. All the guys that we took in the first 3 rounds, I had on my board and called a lot of them to the Lions, including Jahmyr Gibbs as the first pick that was going to go to the Lions. So I put a lot of time in last year to try to get some of that stuff right. I highly doubt I'll have that repeated success this season, but I will try. I literally got very lucky last season. Let's put it that way. I'm not that smart. All right, Rick Ritt says Brad Holmes is the only one that can put the quarterback debate to bed. And how does he do that? I think he does that by, yes, of course, extending Jared Goff. Myers Farm says, boy, what a change. We're finally getting double-digit draft pick. Brad Holmes said that he was excited about that. It makes him more excited to pick at the end of the first round and not the beginning or quasi-middle. And quite honestly, 2 players that I wanted on the Lions last season, Devon Witherspoon, Kobe Turner. Devon Witherspoon, I know you guys have heard me say this before. He was like the number 10 overall draft pick, or number 10 overall corner. I had him as my number 1. He went number 1. He is the number 1. I believe he was a candidate yesterday for Defensive Rookie Player of the Year. And Kobe Turner was too. And Kobe Turner was somewhere in the 3rd, 4th round projection in December. And I believe he got taken in the 1st round. So those two guys would have been very impactful for the Lions. But when you look at the players that they selected, and you have Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, guys doing big things as rookies in this league, both up for awards yesterday. I think it speaks volumes to what Brad Holmes is able to do and the talent that he sees and how important he is to this team. So he'll settle the debate. You're right, Rick, when he does extend Jared Goff. But he's going to do some funky things this year. He said that he's going to. He's excited about picking later in the draft. I've said it this week. I'll say it one more time. He's moving up. He's going to move up in this draft. He's probably going to come up with maybe 15, 16, 17 first round grades maybe. And he's going to want one of those guys. And he's going to do anything he can to get that guy. Last year, he said there was 14 first round grades. He wanted to get in and get out as quickly as possible in that draft. And he didn't care about the rest of the picks. That's why he did what he did. So we'll see. I don't particularly see this draft being very good right now, but that may change. This doesn't look like a very deep draft in any direction to me for the players that we need, or at least that we speculate that the Lions need. So we'll see. That's all going to change soon. All right. That's it for tonight. Probably be doing another live on Sunday, and we're going to be kicking off the cuff again. New dates are going to be coming. Check the bios and take a look for any changes to upcoming dates and times, but you'll always get the notification when we're going to be out there. I appreciate you all joining me tonight, and we'll be talking to you guys next time. So go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. Take care. Bye-bye.